What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody is safe. This time we're working on the '05 GMC Envoy again. This time it's nothing major. We're just going to do a little bit of checks on it and do an oil change on it, and make sure it's going to be good for the upcoming weather. So let's get into it. Let's get into this oil change on this '05 GMC Envoy. So prior to changing the oil in this Envoy, I'm going to start it up and let it warm up a little bit. This thing's been sitting overnight, so the oil in it is cold, it's thick, and you want it to flow a little bit whenever you have it draining out of the oil pan. It'll just come out really a little bit quicker, and everything that was in the bottom of the oil pan, that's part of the oil and all that, will be all suspended in the oil and come out with it. So we'll start it up and let it run for a little while. If you notice that light to the right on the top, that's a indicator saying that you need to change your oil. That's been coming on in between the times of the oil change. I don't follow that. I just change it whenever the oil gets dark enough to change, because I'm running AMS oil in it, and I'll show you what I'm running in it here in a little bit. So we're going to let it run for a little bit, and then we're going to get all the tools and everything out and get started on the oil change. Now that I've got the engine warmed up, I went ahead and started getting all the stuff necessary in order to do this oil change. As you can see here, first things first is something to lay on. Yes, this is my knee pad, back pad, whatever you want to call it. It sure as hell beats rolling around in the rocks and gravel trying to do what you need to do to accomplish, working under a vehicle. Then I've got my drain bucket there for the oil, as well as the oil filter for up underneath. And I'm going to show you how to do all this. Of course, I've got my oil up top, because that's where the oil goes, and from the top of the engine to fill it up. So let's get to it and see how the oil change takes place on this '05 GMC Envoy. So before you put on the new oil filter, it's a good idea to put a little bit of oil on the gasket on the oil filter. Now, a lot of vehicles have these spin-on oil filters, but then there's some that have what they call a cartridge that goes into a housing. So whenever you replace that cartridge in a housing, there's an O-ring that goes on the cap that holds the oil filter in place. So it's either a gasket like this, or it is a O-ring on a cap that you would want to replace as well. Make sure they have oil on each of them, that way it doesn't stick and everything comes apart. So as you can see, I got the oil filter out, but not without a little bit of fanfare. As it is right behind the frame is where the oil filter sits. Now with that front differential in it, makes it a little bit more difficult to get to it, but I could reach my hand up through the arm right there and around the frame, and I was able to get it loose. The fun part was trying to get it out without making such a mess, but that doesn't usually happen. So I got it out, was able to get it out, and well, you can see what all took place. So good thing to have is some paper towels in order to clean up or keep your hands clean while you do it. Now some people will say, well, why don't you wear gloves or something like that? Yeah, well, I don't mind wearing gloves, but they can get all cut up and everything reaching for what you need to reach for. So I have used gloves in the past. I have had to have two pairs of gloves, one to protect my hand from the heat, and another glove over top of that, the latex gloves over top of that, to keep the oil off of the thick gloves for the heat, because people bring them in off the highway at 85 miles an hour, and of course the oil and filter and everything is hot. So yeah, just some advice to when you're changing your oil. If you want to use gloves, that's okay to keep your hands clean. Myself personally, I wash up, clean up just fine. So time to put the new oil filter back on. So the next thing I'm going to do after changing the oil filter out is drain the oil from the engine. This one here is pretty simple. Some of them have little shields. This one here had a little shield on it. I don't know where it went. It was like this when we got it. So it makes it a little bit easier to access, but that's pretty much all it is. It just the oil's just going to drop straight down and into the oil pan. And after a few minutes of draining, most of the oil is out of the crankcase. You won't get all the old oil out of the crankcase. You'll get most of it. But with the new oil will protect the engine just as well. So even if it mixes it up a little bit, it's fine. It shouldn't have any trouble with it. So I'm going to put the drain plug back in it, and we're going to fill her up back to the proper specifications. Now we're going to put the new oil into the engine. In this one here, I'm using AMSOIL 5W30 in this engine. This engine here is a 4.2 inline 6, and that is what is called for this engine, not AMSOIL, but the 5W30. I run AMSOIL in everything that I drive, except the little hot rod over there. But in this one here, I started using it when we got it at 177,000 miles. Transmission, when it was rebuilt, I ran AMSOIL in the transmission, and we haven't had any trouble since. So if you got any concerns, complaints, any information that you want on AMSOIL, I am an AMSOIL dealer. I'm not sponsored by them, but it is a great quality product. If you go back and look at my previous videos on a 2011 Chevrolet Traverse, I was using AMSOIL in it since we got it. It had 123,000 miles when we got it, and we drove it up to 250,000 miles on the original engine. Even though those engines had problems with timing chains and other issues with them, I ran AMSOIL in it and was able to get 250,000 miles out of the engine and transmission on original parts. And I believe it's all attributed to using high quality AMSOIL full synthetic oil. Again, if you got any questions, concerns, complaints, or would like to use AMSOIL at your place of business or just for yourself, just hit me up, throw it down in the comments, and then I'll send you a message, and we can go from there. Let's start putting the oil into the engine. Now that we got all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarts of oil into this engine. Yes, this engine takes 7 quarts of oil, believe it or not. Good thing to do is to check out some of the fluids up underneath the hood. So like this one here, got this power steering fluid, and as you can see, it is up to the full mark on that one. And then check your air filter too. The air filter is still there, still in place, and it's not looking too dirty on that one. Now another thing you would want to do is check your coolant in your vehicle. Now this time of year, right now, what's going on and everything, you want to make sure that your coolant is at the proper level. For one, okay, so let's look at this one here. This one here is at the proper level in the radiator. And also, you can take it a step further and go buy a antifreeze tester. They sell the antifreeze tester at the auto parts store, and what the antifreeze tester does is it will check your antifreeze or test your antifreeze to see how cold that antifreeze will hold up to. You don't want straight water in your engine, because water has got a higher freezing point. So like at 30, 25 degrees, if you have straight water in your engine, you're probably going to bust out some freeze plugs on the engine. With antifreeze, it can go much colder. It can go down to 0 or negative numbers. So you want to have the proper amounts of antifreeze in your cooling system. That way it won't freeze up and cause damage, severe damage to your engine, radiator, and other components that you have on your vehicle. So let's start it up and see how this thing does. So on this vehicle here, there's the little indicator that's showing you to change the oil, a little oil can with the wrench, and you can see it goes out after a period of time. So on this one here, turn it off, turn it back on, hit the accelerator pedal 3 times, turn it off, pull the key out, turn it on. You'll start seeing it flashing like that after you hit the accelerator pedal. Hold the accelerator pedal down and it goes out just like that. Take the key out, put it back in, turn it back on, bam, it's done just like that. Now if you really want to make somebody mad, which the driver of this vehicle kind of gets concerned about it, because every time that little indicator comes on, it needs oil, it needs oil, it needs oil. Well, no, it just needs to change the oil and then reset the light. So that's how you reset that. And now what we're going to do is the final thing here is check the oil level on it. The oil dipstick is right here, and that's what it looks like. Let me I can try to do this one-handed here while showing y'all this. So I'm going to wipe it off a little bit, and you'll see how it's supposed to look with the hash marks and everything. Okay, focus on this like that. Okay, it's all nice and clean. And then we're going to put it back down in the tube there and take her back out, and she is up to the full mark like it should be. So I always like to double check and just make sure on it that it's got plenty of oil, even though we got 7 quarts and that's the recommended amount. And that's it pretty much for all the oil change. Now to take out the trash and put all that away.
Well, there you go, folks. That is all that happened on the 05 GMC ENVOY. And from the time that we changed oil till now, the temperature had dropped to a single-digit wind chill factor. And now this morning, the next day, about 11 o'clock, and it's only 25 degrees and wind chill factor of about 14 or so. So it's been kind of brutal with this temperature change that we've had. But hope for everybody is well. Hope everybody is safe. Hope everybody is warm where you're at. And hopefully everybody makes good decisions and stay safe. We'll talk to you later, and we'll see y'all on the next video.